It once was called global warming. Now it is called climate change. The bottom line is, though, it's still the same thing. Global warming, climate change, the idea that the Earth is getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and eventually it's going to get so hot, while the Earth might even become like the planet Venus. Runaway thermal effect, hotter and hotter. Or the oceans might boil away and the Earth might eventually become like the planet Mars. Well, what is the scientific validity of it? Let's take a look at some paleontology and a look at history. Both will show that the Earth's climate has, from time to time, become hotter and colder. The temperatures of the Earth have gone up and down. At the one extreme, there's the Cretaceous period. Cretaceous, yes, look it up for yourself, folks. It's during the Cretaceous period, the temperature of the Earth was very, very hot. So hot, in fact, that the Earth actually had a uniform tropical climate. Yes, even the polar regions have fossils that show tropical plants and animals that show that Antarctica was once a tropical climate, once enjoyed a year-round summer. Folk, the rest of the Earth must have been really, really hot. Why, this was the best time for life there was. This was the age of the dinosaurs, the age of the very, very giant trees. I mean, you know, life was never better. Unfortunately, it came to an end. The climate cooled. Since the Cretaceous period, there has been at least one ice age, and maybe more, depending on what you read, who you read. There might have been several ice ages, but after the ice ages came and went, the climate warmed back up. These things go in cycles. Now let's look a little bit at our history books. Let's look at the High Middle Ages. Now, the High Middle Ages is that period of time between 1000 and 1300 AD, or 1000 and 1300 CE, if you want to be politically correct. This period of time, the Earth seems to have been as hot as a firecracker. You have crops growing farther north than they grow today. In addition, it was during this time that the Vikings moved to Greenland and lived in Greenland and farmed in Greenland the same way that they were able to farm back in Scandinavia. Well, today, folk, that's impossible. You cannot farm in Greenland like you do in Scandinavia unless you farm right on the extreme coastline. But anyway, what happened? This came to an end. Greenland froze over, Scandinavia froze over, and, well, as the climate cooled, death and destruction came with it. The Black Death occurred possibly largely because of a climate cooling. The Black Death carried away a third of Europe's population and a very high percentage of people in China. Well, 350 or so years later, another phenomenon occurred called the Little Ice Age. During the Little Ice Age, millions of people died in the Northern Hemisphere, as far south as India, and in China, as well as in Europe. Millions of people died. Why? Because of cooling. But the cooling warmed up. Now, folk, it has been about 350 or so years since the last Little Ice Age. I do not know if this means that another cooling down period is coming, but I do know that in time past there have been warmings followed by coolings. And the Earth has never become like Venus. The Earth has never become like Mars. These things seem to go in cycles, and we don't know for sure what causes them. The warming during the Cretaceous period was believed to have been caused by a split of the continents, where that whole lot of gases were emitted in the atmosphere, but, folk, it cooled down. Now, what caused the warming of the High Middle Ages? Certainly not carbon emissions, because they did not have an industrial complex like we have today. So what caused the warming up? Could it be that the sun sometimes warms up and cools down? At one time, scientists were, oh no, this doesn't happen. The temperature of the sun is a constant. Well, today we know that the temperature of stars is not constant, and the temperature of our sun is not constant either. Therefore, we might wonder, did the sun heat up or cool down? Or are there other forces and factors at work that we really are not aware of right now? The point is, climate seems to go up and down. It always has, and as long as man remains on Earth, it likely always will. Now, the climatologists who believe in global warming or climate change, call it what you will, it's all the same thing, but these climatologists will insist that they have the majority opinion on their side. I want to remind them of something. Science is not consensus. I mean, Ptolemy's view of the universe prevailed in the Western world for 1800 years. Today we think it was wrong. Science is not consensus. Science, among other things, is open discussion, and today there's a move on to try to suppress any type of open discussion about climate change. We want to force it on people and to make sure that no one believes anything else other than their preconceived view that the Earth is going to get hotter and hotter. Therefore, we must quit emitting our carbon emissions, even though we know that these things greatly benefit plant life, and when plant life is benefited, animal life is, and human life is benefited also. But oh no, we've got to stop this, because who knows, the Earth might get hotter and hotter, and a thermal runaway take effect, and we might become like the planet Venus.